Hello and welcome to Swiftly Spoken, a fan-made Taylor Swift podcast in which we break down her lyrics, deep dive into full album retrospectives, and theorise about what may be coming next. We are your hosts, Cameron and Lisa, and in this episode we're going to be talking about midnight songs that we think could fit on other Taylor albums. What we're going to be doing in this episode is going through all of Taylor's albums chronologically through time and mentioning which songs from Midnights we think could somehow be placed in them. As a disclaimer, obviously a lot of these albums, or at least the first half as we're going to discuss, are a bit awkward to fit in Midnight songs on because after all Midnights is a pop album. However, we're going to be placing them in different albums not only because of their sound but also sometimes because of their lyrical content or the mood that they evoke, or perhaps even the general story being told and how it relates to a different era. So we'll be giving our explanations as we go through, but just keep that in mind as we do mention our picks. So starting off right from the beginning, did you or was you able to pick any songs from Midnights that you would like to place onto Taylor Swift's debut album, Taylor Swift?
Unfortunately, no, I've really struggled. There's nothing country enough. There's nothing that really stretches that far back, even really on the album, to kind of excuse the fact of, it's lyrically similar or tells a similar story. I suppose maybe You're on Your Own, Kid.
Yep.
But then I think that stretches further for me. I think that it might start off there. But personally, I don't know, I put it on another album because of just Sonic and another reason that I'll explain. So maybe You're on Your Own, Kid, but I personally didn't feel like it really fit. It does kind of have a place in the world kind of vibes.
Right.
So maybe I think maybe I could have placed that, but no, I didn't place anything purely sonically and lyrically. I just don't know, there just wasn't anything that was screaming debut. Yeah,
I have to agree with you there. There's nothing really on this album that can easily be fit in an album such as Debut, which is just so coming of age country. But however, having said that, I did write down You're on Your Own, Kid. Acoustic, but it would have to be an acoustic version that was even more acoustic than that remixed version, like a real stripped back just Taylor on a guitar kind of thing. Because of that, like you just mentioned, that's funny you should mention that because I have that written down, that feeling of not fitting in somewhere, a place in this world. However, obviously You're on Your Own, Kid has a lot of the perspective interwoven into its lyrics of having grown up and looking back at that time. So I guess very, very loosely we can mention it. However, obviously the sound of it doesn't really fit. Lyrically, perhaps to some extent. But yeah, I have to agree with you on this one. Moving on next to Fearless. What have you placed anything in Fearless? Bit difficult as well, maybe?
I have placed one thing. Fearless was quite difficult. There is kind of one song, maybe lyrically, I would have put on, which is possibly like Midnight Rain.
Oh, I got the same one.
That kind of fits. Yeah, but I didn't place it.
Oh, you didn't in the end? Oh, okay.
Purely because I've placed it somewhere else for Sonic. See, this is the thing with them is I placed it somewhere else because for me, sonically...
Yes.
I don't know, I just couldn't. But to be fair, Midnight Rain, as we've mentioned, with Fearless, it does have that motif of like kind of standing in the pouring rain and stuff like that. So to be fair, it does work. But for me, I actually put Hits Different. Purely, even though Hits Different kind of gives me 1989 vibes at the same time.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me, it feels very like Other Side of the Door, Jump Them Fool, You Belong With Me, kind of. I don't know, I feel like it could work with a slight production,
more of
just
a
turn up the banjos a little bit
moment, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it could fit perfectly on like Platinum Edition. It just screams Platinum Edition of Fearless. So I have put Hits Different, even though I did think about Midnight Rain, but personally decided against it because of Sonic. But how come you decided to put it on?
Yeah, so I've actually cheated a little bit because I have put Midnight Rain somewhere else as well. But you know that very viral Midnight Rain remix that is going around at the moment, which is like a piano stripped back remix of Midnight Rain, which I absolutely adore. That's the Midnight Rain that I envision being on Fearless because it reminds me a bit of
Fearless and
Forever Now and Always piano version.
I was going to say it screams Fearless Platinum Edition.
That's it. Again, yes, it's the Platinum Edition that it's more alike to. But yeah, so I would have put it there because of that. Again, I think it's the lyrical content that is making me want to put it on Fearless more than the sound. That's why if you kind of strip it back a little bit, it might fit a bit better. It also has a very similar motif to We Were Happy and The Vault in a strange way. So that's why I kind of did place it there, but I have cheated and placed it somewhere else. So it'd be interesting to see if we coincide on the other album that we've placed it on. But yeah, that's the only one that I've really got for Fearless, and it just goes to show, I think, we'll get into Speak Now before I give my thoughts about the country songs, but it's been difficult. So going into Speak Now, this is a difficult one because obviously there's one song that screams Speaks Now, but at the same time it's nothing that could fit on Speak Now really. So was you able to place any?
So I did place, I placed the obvious one, would have, could have, should have, because obviously it's Speak Now Taylor, you know, it's Dear John, it's, you know, so that has to go on there purely because of lyrically, the whole 19 thing makes total sense. But I have actually placed 3 other songs on Speak Now.
Okay, this is interesting.
So one of them is Snow on the Beach. I just think, weirdly, it kind of, I don't know why, I struggled to place Snow on the Beach. I didn't really know where to put it. Like, I thought about Folklore, but to me it wasn't screaming Folklore. And for some reason it felt, I don't know, it felt kind of, obviously without the F word, because Speak Now Taylor would have never put an F word.
The clean Snow on the Beach.
Speak Now.
Weird, but it was beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah. But something about it, I don't know, it just kind of felt, it felt kind of slightly kind of whimsical and romantic, you know, the kind of, like, it is one of those, I don't know, it felt like that kind of thing of Speak Now, of like, oh, something that you wanted to say in the moment, of like, oh my god, it was just so beautiful, you know what I mean? It was kind of like that enchanted-y feel of like, something, I don't know, it just felt whimsical and magic. It's hard to describe in my head, but it had that kind of Speak Now-y feel to it in some strange way. But I did really struggle to place it, so I think maybe part of me was like, oh, I'll just use that as an excuse to shove it on Speak Now, because I couldn't really fit anywhere else. Right. Another song that I put on there was Bigger Than the Whole Sky.
That's strange. Okay.
This was because I kind of felt like it kind of reminded me, not in the same vein, but kind of like Never Grow Up.
Oh, wow, kind of this innocent. Is crazy. I'm just saying like those things because these are the same thoughts that I had and I've literally written them down, and that's really, I guess it attests to how much we consume these albums that we have like the themes memorized. But yeah, I'll get into mine in a second, but sorry, go ahead. But okay, yeah, that's
interesting.
Crazy.
That's very interesting. But yeah, bigger Than the Whole Sky, I put there because, and I think to be fair, it kind of sounds, obviously elements would have to be changed up, but sonically it wouldn't be a million miles away. You know, it's not like trying to shove, you know, Bejeweled or something on there. You know? It wouldn't be like, oh my god, what the hell. So yeah, I put that on there. And then my last one was You're on Your Own, Kid.
Okay.
And this one I kind of felt like, because it has the slight more perspective and grown-up element, and I think like Speak Now Taylor was very aware, you know, like when she performed 15, she'd be like, the last time I thought I knew everything was when I was 15, you know? I don't know, and even things like the fact that like Speak Now Taylor wrote nothing new, I don't know, that she was kind of feeling that feeling of like, you're on your own, you can do it. And I don't know, I think weirdly sonically in the start of the song, not so much towards the end, also kind of gave me Speak Now vibes. Again, it was Innocent that was I was kind of linking it to.
Right.
You know, like 32 and Still Growing Up Now and stuff like that. So I don't know, that's the ones I put. So yeah, Snow on the Beach, Bigger Than the Whole Sky, You're on Your Own, Kid, and Would Have, Should Have. Would have, could have, should have. So what about you? What did you pick?
Yeah, all of those are very interesting picks, and it's crazy how basically not all of them, but most of them are from the 3am edition, which attests to the fact that the 3am edition is indeed quite different to the actual album itself. But yeah, very interesting picks, and all picks that I had in mind, except for You're on Your Own, Kid, which, as I've already explained, for me, I placed on debut, but I can see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
And I definitely, again, think it relates to Never Grow Up. It's just like looking back, and you've taken a step forward, and you're looking back at that feeling of isolation and of moving on in life. So I can get behind you on basically all of them. I also had Bigger Than the Whole Sky here. I also have it somewhere else, but because I wasn't going to mention it here, but since you mentioned it, it was just crazy how your process of thinking was very similar to mine, where I also kind of thought I kind of can relate it to again, this devastational feeling of moving through life and going through. Also, I kind of related it to Ronan, but that would be breaching on Red territory, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, it's all very... Most of these choices for the country albums are very lyrically based, because sonically...
Yes.
Midnight's has a very particular sound to it. She's really carved out a sound for Midnight's that is so different to most of her albums, if not all of them, which is amazing to see how 10 albums in, like, she can still like make a very different sound.
Reinvent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and creating stuff new.
So in the end, the one that I did place here definitively is Would've, Could've, Should've. Again, not because of its sound, because it doesn't have that sound, but definitely lyrically, I think it would be like a late Speak Now era when she's got over... I guess the point being is that she's got to that point now in her life, which is crazy, but...
Exactly.
You know, if we imagine these songs on other albums, I do think it would have to fit just because of its theme and content, and again, I do think it's a very honest, raw... song that could fit on 100%. An album such as Speak Now, where she is pretty honest and pretty raw and she don't hold back, so I agree with you there. Next up we have Red, which is the last of the country albums and the last album that I really struggled on.
Yes, definitely. I agree there. This was the first 4 was really hard, and I was really kind of having to dig to find stuff, whereas the later ones it was like yep. It was like that one on there, that one on there. It was quite easy,
which is crazy to think because she has been re-recording her country albums essentially at this point. So you'd kind of think that maybe country would be creeping in an influence in Midnight's, but honestly I think Midnight's is much more influenced by all of the latter half of her albums. Like it does explore pop and it does explore indie to some extent, but again, as Taylor always says, genres, she bends them most of the time, and her music goes beyond that, really. But any picks for Red in the end?
The most obvious one, obviously, I put Maroon on there purely because of kind of its obviously lyrical parallels, and it's like Red's older sister. Sonically, obviously not. It doesn't sound Red. It kind of sounds slightly rep, maybe.
Right.
But I just couldn't put it anywhere else. It would, I don't know, I would feel like it would be silly. It's like putting Would've, Should've, Could've somewhere else.
Yeah, this is it. Because she's made these songs about Midnight's in her life, it's obvious that our feelings towards them make us gravitate towards different albums in her life. So Maroon, it was... I have placed it somewhere else again. I've kind of cheated once again, like Midnight Rain. But I had to place it in Red as well, because the lyrical content is just so... It relates so much, and it gives you that extra piece of the puzzle that you didn't even realize was missing to see more of a complete view of that album, which is crazy that she's still giving us... It's just so interesting how she can still give us perspective that makes you go back to that album and reanalyze it in a different light and say,
in different
wow.
ways. Even kind of, I kind of love the lyrical parallels of... Because obviously with Red Taylor's version, we kind of got the extra pieces to the puzzle. With the vault, but then I feel like with Midnight's we've then had this kind of strange kind of lyrical parallel with stuff like the things of like the cool indie records and all of that stuff, and like at your cool indie music concerts, and then obviously cleaning your vinyl shelf, that kind of links with that, the indie records, and then obviously the All Too Well, You Call Me Up Again Just to Break Me Like a Promise, and then the rust that grew between telephones. It's just kind of interesting, the kind of parallels and stuff. I really, really love Maroon anyway, but I think that, it would just be doing those parallels a disservice by not saying that it belonged on Red, even though sonically it does not.
Yeah, definitely. So these 4 albums, like we said, they are a bit more tentative in the sense of the sound of the songs. They would probably stand out in all of our choices would probably stand out in those albums. However, lyrically they very much fit. I think I agree with your choices, and I think that they do fit. However, from 1989 onwards, I think we can place them both sonically and lyrically luckily enough.
Definitely.
So for 1989, how many did you choose? Because I chose 4 here.
4? Really? Only 2 for me.
Okay. What have we got?
Yeah, so do you want to hear my 2?
Yeah.
So the most obvious one, obviously is Question.
Yes.
Again, sonically maybe not so, but it literally reworks out of the words. It tells a very similar story to basically 99.9% of 1989. So, it would just... I would find it weird not putting it on there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that one was mainly because of lyrically. But I also put Bejeweled,
Me
which
too.
might be slightly strange. Oh, you did? Oh, you did? Because I've seen some people say that it's 1989 and other people be like, what? No, it's not. So I wasn't sure if you were what camp you were going to kind of be on. But yeah, I've put Bejeweled because it has that fun pop kind of like... And with that whole the whole kind of concept and sound of 1989 was like, I've moved to New York, I'm single, I'm doing my own thing.
This is it.
You know, like... And this is what kind of Bejeweled is like, actually, I can do it, I can do pop. And then also what's quite interesting is that Bejeweled is about Taylor being kind of hyping herself up to go back into pop and be like, okay, I've had fun doing all this folk stuff, but now actually I want to do pop and I can still, you know, do pop really well. So it's then interesting to put it on the album that she really distinguished herself as a pop artist,
right?
Rather than, you know, a kind of country crossover. So no, I think, yeah, that's why I kind of put Bejeweled, because of its parallels with things like Welcome to New York and the sentiment of 1989, as well as obviously sonically slightly similar.
Yeah,
what about
I have to
you?
agree with you there. Yeah, I've also got Question, of course, just that, you know, you can't sample Out of the Woods and then not be placed on that
exactly.
album.
And shove it on like Lover, yeah.
Exactly. And then Bejeweled, I also added here. Originally, I was going towards Lover, but then I thought, no, there's something different about Bejeweled that makes me feel like it's a different kind of pop. It's more of that polished pop, funnily enough, you know? So that's why I placed it on 1989 as well. I think it sounds pretty 1989, although again, there's something about these Midnight's tracks, which obviously is very much purposeful, but there's something about them that just makes them like stand out from the rest of the albums and the rest of the pop albums. Like, I think it's that Jack production that is very, very conscious and conscientious about placing all of these very, very purposeful things. Like Bejeweled has a lot of like shiny, I don't know how else to describe it, but like shiny sounds to it, like the glittering.
Even the way she says like nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
and how that
she says that it's this kind of like it's like this glittery sound almost.
Exactly.
I know that's a weird way to describe
it. It's really,
really
I think that really has made elevated Midnights to what it is, and I think it really steps it up in the theme of the album. It really makes it very, very 100%. Concept. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it really does. And I was just going to say, Keith Urban, I think, said recently that Midnights was an incredible album, but he said you could just listen to it without the lyrics because he's so impressed by Jack's production.
Right.
So he said he says it's like a masterclass. I'm probably butchering what he said, but roughly, kind of, he said that it was kind of Jack's kind of production on it was incredible, and it's like a masterclass. And just listen to the production on its own is just really impressive because it's very conscious of his production. You know, it's not we're just going to shove a beat. He's kind of very kind of analytical with the way that he
what I love
produces
about it
stuff, and it's very chosen.
What I love about it is that he honestly listens to the lyrics, and the lyrics lend themselves to the production. As someone who honestly enjoys music the most because of the lyrics of a certain song, although obviously I can get down to any, you know, good, well-produced song with a great beat, but because of that is being so important to, and I think many Taylor Swift fans find lyrics the most important
100%.
part of a song because that's what we gravitate towards her. The production makes it, I don't know, it kind of elevates them so much more. So yeah, honestly, this is such a well-produced album. But anyway, apart from those two, I also have shoved into 1989 Anti-Hero and Hits Different.
Interesting. Hits Different, I totally understand.
Right. In fact, you were the one who kind of convinced me about this when we spoke about Hits Different in our previous episode, or one of our previous episodes, the 3 a.m., our reactions and our breaking down of all of those songs. I kind of felt that it was like relating to like this Fearless and Speak Now-y era of Taylor. But when you were kind of analysing and picking out parts of the song, like, you know, she speaks about your hair and your eyes and this and that, I was like, wow, thematically it is so much like 1989 as well.
1989.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I think, 100% could work. And like, it kind of has How You Get the Girl.
Yes, it does have that kind of vibe as well.
It kind of feels that kind of vibe, yeah.
And then Anti-Hero...
So no, I think that's good choice.
Yeah, and then Anti-Hero, which is the last one... I guess I just placed it on there because it is like a smash pop hit, and it just works. It has quite a lot of lyrics going on. It's kind of I'm likening it to Blank Space in my head, where she's giving a lot of information. She's saying a lot of things that in a different kind of song or with a different kind of production, you kind of sit down and be like, oh God. But they still make this really cool pop song that people will just sing along to and not really realize what they're saying and be like, okay, yeah, when my depression works the graveyard shift, hi, I'm the problem, you know? So that's why I put it on there.
That one, weirdly, I don't know, I think I don't know, I feel like I get why you put it because of the production, the big pop moment, but I don't know, I think lyrically for me, like, I just don't know whether 1989, one of the reasons I didn't place it, because I did think, oh, that's the pop song.
Yeah.
So realistically, that should be the one 1989. And I kind of thought to myself, oh, the reason I won't place it there is because I feel like 1989 Taylor wasn't in that sentiment of like, I'm the problem. You know what I mean? Like, she hadn't kind of had all the drama of, 2016 yet.
It is difficult.
So that's kind of one of the reasons I hadn't placed it.
Yeah, it is difficult because it does seem kind of anachronistic. And this happens, like, it was the same for me with Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda, because I'd love to say, like, yes, it's perfect for Speak Now. But in a way, was she there yet? Like, had she processed those emotions? Yeah. Obviously not, because that's the point of Midnights. We've got to that point now.
Yeah.
So I get what you mean with that.
Same with Maroon, really.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly. That perspective wasn't there.
She thought that relationship was red, but now,
it's tainted.
Midnight Taylor realizes that it was way darker than that and tainted. Yeah. So no.
Yeah.
It is interesting, and it's interesting because what I enjoy about doing stuff like this by placing songs and linking songs together is that it shows the kind of thematic similarities between Taylor's music and
the evolution.
I don't know, it's just quite fun to analyse, and evolution, and also what it does as well as it also then makes you really analyse these songs and makes you realise how different it all is and how hard it is to put these songs on other stuff because they're also specific to the album that they belong on.
Next up, this album I thought was going to be hard, but I actually have quite a few picks for it. It's Reputation.
Me too.
So,
I think
do you want to go ahead?
The next one and Evermore I have the most picks for, ironically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was surprised. The ones that I picked, talking about it, is Anti-Hero.
Okay.
Because I kind of had that, I don't know, Rep Taylor was very doubtful. You know, like even with Delicate, it's like, oh, can I do this?
Right.
You know, like, so I think that was kind of that side of her creeping in. That's why I kind of put Anti-Hero there. And it kind of links with the title, even sounds a bit kind of something that Reputation Taylor would think.
It does, honestly,
she's the kind of anti-hero of stuff. So not even overly lyrically or sonically, but almost just kind of thematically, I kind of put it there. So anyways, that one. Then Vigilante Ship.
Of course,
because,
of course.
It's
like a secret Reputation song, honestly.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And then I put Midnight Rain.
Yep.
Kind of because of the production element. The kind of changed up vocals kind of gives me like Delicate vibes.
Yep.
Or, I did something about the rat-ta-ta-ta-ta.
Yep.
So that kind of element of it I put there. And some people are linking it to obviously her relationship with Tom Hiddleston, even though that's not what it's about. So I kind of thought I could use that as an excuse. And I also put Glitch.
Wow, this is crazy. They're exactly my picks.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's so funny.
Yep.
What, Vigilante Ship, Midnight Rain, Glitch?
Yes. Yep.
That's interesting. What was your reason for Glitch before I explain mine? Because I'll be intrigued to see if it's the same.
Okay, so I guess Glitch is one that it's both lyrical and production-wise for me. It would fit in Reputation.
Yeah.
Obviously, lyrical content, the story that we're getting is very much Reputation. And I think I mentioned this in the 3am episode as well. Glitch to me feels like Gorgeous, but just even drunker. Like, Gorgeous has had a few too many shots, and now she's not just taking the mick. Like, she's like wandering through the town like, this wasn't what I was supposed to do. And she even sounds a bit drunk in that song, which is so funny. But anyway, so I guess that's why I also think the production lends itself to Reputation. It has like a darker production. It reminds me of So It Goes when we get that 1, 2, 3 and then a pause. Like we get the pause and then it goes glitch and it gives you the jump scare. So that's why. So
yeah, no, I agree.
Right.
And I think, and also the time stamp on glitch is obviously very early on into the relationship, which is where rep is kind of what rep is discussing, the kind of early stages of that relationship. So yeah, I think, sonically and lyrically, that's literally exactly the same reasons I placed it.
Yeah. Yeah, and as for Midnight Rain, I completely agree with you. I also placed it there because of the production. And it just sounds like a Reputation song. And obviously Vigilante Shit is the Reputation song. It's what everyone expected to be on Reputation in the beginning, but we got it now.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly, that's what, everyone... what Vigilante Shit is like the misconstrued idea of what Reputation is.
Right.
Of this like vengeful... I'm getting karma and revenge back on you, I hate you. Whereas, as we've mentioned many a times throughout all of our episodes, that is not the intention of Reputation. Reputation is about finding love through the noise and through the perception that you are that person. Yeah. It's about finding true love through all of that and with a bad reputation, rather than, I've got a bad reputation, I don't give a damn, I'm going to, backstab this person. And certain songs go for that,
Yeah,
side
I did
A
Something
of the album
Bad.
Especially more so. Yeah,
Some
exactly,
extent,
don't blame me. But the main kind of bulk of Reputation actually
is very different.
Is a love album.
Yeah.
And I think this is a conversation that maybe some people aren't ready for, but I think elements of Reputation are actually more romantic than Lover.
Honestly,
so,
agreed. Reputation and Lover are both the same size to one coin, and sometimes Reputation does it better, I gotta say. But maybe we're not ready for that conversation today.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I have also kind of written in here, although we've already mentioned it, Maroon's production. I think Maroon could somehow fit in Reputation. And I must just say, in mind with your choice for Anti-Hero here, just like you said for me with 1989, it's funny. Like, I was so ready for her to sing it in 1989. But then I don't think she could get away with singing it in Reputation, just because of... Imagine her saying, I'm the problem, it's me, after everything that went on, like
true.
straight off the bat.
Very true.
Like, people be like, yes, you are.
Very true.
You know what I mean? So I'm kind of hesitant.
Like I said, I almost placed it there because of almost its title.
Yeah, the name
really, because I don't know,
works.
it feels, it feels very rep.
Next up, we have Lover, which I do think that Lover is another one that was quite easy for me to place a few on.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
100%. I feel like Lover and Midnights do actually cross over quite a lot.
Yeah, I honestly do think so. Which it makes sense because Lover was the last pop album we got before Midnights. So when she's going back to pop, that's kind of where she left off. And then we can see that that's kind of like a springboard into the rest of Midnights.
Yes, I agree. I really agree.
So what have you got for Lover?
So I've got Lavender Haze,
Yep.
which I think is it's basically a secret lover song. Like, it really is. Just because obviously, again, the kind of relationship that it's describing is slightly further along, so it kind of... The Midnight that she's describing is in the Lover era.
Yeah.
I feel like. Then I've also put Karma.
Yep.
Because even though Karma, you would think would belong on somewhere like Rep, Karma is Lover era.
It is.
It's like, I forgot you existed.
It is.
It's basically, Karma isn't... It's almost like, whereas Reputation's like, you're going to get the Karma. Like in Look What We Made, it's like, you'll get the Karma. Like, I've got mine, but you'll get yours. And then actually, Lover Taylor had realised, actually, the Karma isn't that. The Karma, then I don't care if they do get the Karma that I think that they, do or don't deserve. It's more that the Karma is actually...
just being
I'm
calm.
happy and I'm in a good relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I put Karma on there, sonically and lyrically. Both
Agreed.
Lavender Haze and Karma sonically, lyrically. I also put Mastermind on there. I feel like that's weirdly also a secret lover track. Production, maybe not so much so, but still I think it works. I think it, again, documents that kind of early stage of the relationship, and I think that Lover Taylor, I don't know, like, she kind of had a bit of fun with stuff, and I don't know, I just feel like it works quite well. And I've also put Paris, again, because of kind of sonically, I've put it there. And obviously the kind of Midnight that it's describing happened during the Lover era, so not pre-Lover era, but kind of during. But still, I feel like it's almost like a vault, like with kind of, like Taylor said with like Red, for Red Taylor's version, that some of the songs extended kind of beyond that time, and when she's moving into the next album, with songs I think like kind of message in a bottle and stuff screams, you know, I want to go pop, I want to go 1989. I feel like Paris is kind of like a lover vault, if you know what I mean.
Definitely.
But anyways, awful explanation. But
no,
yeah, those are the
it
four I
does
put on
feel
there. What
like
about
that.
you?
I think well, again, I've coincided on all four of them, which is absolutely crazy, but I do think especially Lavender Haze, Karma and Paris really do feel like lover vault tracks, honestly. Like in the best way
100%.
possible. I don't mean to say like they wasn't good enough to put on the album or anything like that, but they're just they interact with that album, the album's themes very well. Sonically, they work pretty well as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, I understand that these are mainly Glitter Gel Pen songs, and I always relate those kind of songs to Lover because it is such a Glitter Gel Pen album. It is what it is. So, yeah, I have to agree with you. Lavender Haze, again, the remix kind of mashup that exists with I Think He Knows. I think that's one of the reasons that pushed me towards that as well. Karma, you described perfectly. And Paris, again, it encapsulates that I'm so in love that I might stop breathing, which is Lover.
Exactly, yeah.
For Mastermind, I did struggle for Mastermind because I think it is the production that makes me, and even like the lyrical content in some ways, I was like, maybe it's Reputation, maybe it's Folklore.
I thought that.
It's somewhere in between.
And I thought Folklore as well.
I put it in Lover. So yeah, I get it. I get vibes from all of those three albums kind of mashed together for that song.
Oh yeah, that's exactly how I felt with Mastermind. That it obviously strongly links with things like Invisible String, and then so I was like, oh, is it kind of folklore-y? But the production kind of is more rep, but then kind of the time that it's being placed is more Lover, and it does work with that. So yeah, I decided to shove it bang in the middle because I think it makes sense. So yeah, I had the same thought process as you, definitely.
Yeah. Next up, we have Folklore, which for this one, I have 3 songs, and I mentioned the first one off the bat because I know that you've already placed it somewhere else. So I placed Snow on the Beach for Folklore.
Interesting.
Which is not so much production-wise, because production-wise, again, it has an amazing production. Like, the way that it sounds like snow falling and kind of Christmassy could kind of... The production maybe leans more into Evermore type of production, really.
Yes.
However, I don't know, lyrically, I just think it fits so well on Folklore. Like, take away all that production, read those lyrics. I searched Aurora Borealis green. I've never seen someone lit from within. The way that she's describing everything is very Folklore for me. It's very fountain pen.
Oh, yeah.
At like the extreme, not Quill, because it's not that far gone, but I definitely feel like for me it's a folklore-y kind of song.
Oh yeah, I do agree there, and I did think about placing it there, but decided for me, I don't know, I just weirdly put it on speed now. But I think it could definitely work on Folklore, and the kind of collaborative element with Lana Del Rey as well. Folklore kind of has that very collaborative, Folklore and Evermore have that very collaborative feel, even if there isn't a like kind of endless amount of actual collaborations. The fact that it was kind of Taylor, Jack, Aaron, Joe, and kind of Bon Iver, and all of them kind of working together, Justin Vernon. So yeah, I think Lana works very well in that world, and I think that she could have worked quite well being featured on a Folklore or Evermore song. So I think it wouldn't look out of place, definitely not.
Other than that, I've also picked for Folklore, although I'm kind of doubting myself as I'm going to read this out, but still, I'll say it now. Sweet Nothing and Dear Reader. Sweet Nothing, I stand by. I think that it kind of feels like the middle of Lover and Folklore, where both lyrically and production-wise and just sonically, but I think it could fit in Folklore because of songs like Invisible String. Although I do see Sweet Nothing being similar also to It's Nice to Have a Friend. So again, somewhere in between, but I'm leaning more towards Folklore for this one. And Dear Reader, again, we discussed this, but it's very poetic. But I feel now that I've said it, that I'd actually chuck this into Evermore.
Yes, so once we get into Evermore, I'll give my reasoning for it.
Okay.
But yeah, for Folklore, quickly, I only have one.
Right.
Can you guess what you think it would be?
Seeing what's left, I don't know if it's not Sweet Nothing. I'm not too sure because
No, it's Sweet Nothing.
Oh, it is. There you go. Great.
It's the most logical. That song is like the most folklore song for me, and yeah,
Right.
it is very. It's nice to have a friend, but it's nice to have a friend feels like a folklore song anyway.
It does. It does.
Weird
In our
way.
previous
So I
episode where
think
we did this, we literally both agreed that we would kind of be able to put It's Nice to Have a Friend onto folklore, and it was her leaning into what was coming next. So yeah, definitely.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, I think it's nice to have a friend. So yeah, I think that it works perfectly, and the kind of over analysis and description of a pebble is so folklore.
Oh, love it.
And it's just really ethereal, really lovely, and just so. I would just love to. I don't know. It's one of those feelings where it's like I would just love to have that feeling of like feeling so just happy and lovely. It's just such a lovely, happy song in such a sweet way. The description of that pebble, I remember the first time I heard it, I thought that is the most gorgeous thing ever. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Ed Sheeran's song where he mentions that kind of pebble and I'll carve it.
Oh my gosh,
like a
yeah, Wake Me Up.
heart-shaped necklace, and it'll fall, and it would like fall on your
throwback.
heartbeat. And a piece of me is a piece of the beach, and
oh
it falls
God.
just where it needs to be and rests peacefully. I can't really remember it now.
Yes.
And it's like when your heartbeat, it kind of gives me this gorgeous over analysis of something so simple, but something so poignant.
Yeah.
And just that kind of triggering a memory. I really, really, really love Sweet Nothing, and I think folklore, perfect.
Definitely.
And that's where it belongs.
And now we've discussed it as well. It also kind of relates to the lakes, like industry disruptors, soul deconstructors, the
100%.
voices that implore you should be doing more to you, I could admit. Not without my muse,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
And when she said, I remember the first time when I heard it, and she said, "I'm just too soft for all of it." It's
tears.
just like, bless her. So yeah, lakes, 100%, 100%. Yeah,
This is
crosses over with the
so
lakes,
interesting how most of our picks have been very, very similar, because in our previous episode where we
basically
did
identical.
this, we did differ quite a lot more, which leads us, I believe, we have the same exact picks for Evermore, which were were the ones that I did straight off the bat. Like, I knew what I wanted for Evermore, which I'm going to read them out.
And also, these are kind of your favourites as well, a lot of them, which is interesting.
Well,
'cause
that's
obviously you're a
no
big Evermore fan.
coincidence. I think that this explained everything to me, really. But yeah, Evermore, I'll read them out and let me know if there's any I've missed. But I've got Labyrinth, The Great War, High Infidelity.
And I've got Dear Reader.
Of course.
But yeah. Otherwise the same.
Which I just mentioned, but yeah.
Explain your reasonings, because I'm sure that they'll be identical.
Right. Okay, so I do want to mention here that I also have Bigger Than the Whole Sky. I mentioned I cheated on a couple. You said that for Speak Now you had Bigger Than the Whole Sky. I agreed with you, although I did originally place it into Evermore, but I wasn't as sure as with the others.
I thought about Evermore because obviously Evermore, as we kind of mentioned, deals with closures.
Yes, exactly.
A lot, and the end of stuff, and I think I did think about it there as well. So I think, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, that's why. I kind of placed it there originally because I was like, it's such a big closure to a chapter. It's filled with a lot of big feelings, a lot of devastational lyrics. But yeah, I can get behind it on either one of those, honestly, for the reasons that we explained previously. But yeah, getting into the other three for me, although Dear Reader, like I said, as we've discussed it, I'm kind of leaning towards it. I'm sure you'll convince me with whatever reasoning you had. But starting with Labyrinth, well, honestly, these three as a whole, I think mostly it's production-wise that these fit into Evermore.
Yeah, 100%.
But especially with Labyrinth, it is the most on the standard edition of Midnight's. It is the most kind of experimental, I think, when it comes to production, like with all the sounds going on in the background. Again, it's one of those songs that doesn't follow the traditional layout of a song. So Labyrinth, the name isn't in the chorus. It's just one word that is said, and then we carry on. Yeah, I the layout of it, the sound of it, the content of it even is very much Evermore. It reminds me of the song Evermore, in fact, Lost in the Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah.
And, that bridge of Evermore where you're kind of lost and going through it all. Yeah, that's why I kind of placed it there.
Totally agree.
Then, much the same for The Great War. Amazing songwriting, metaphorical content, telling a story almost from a different perspective, one of a soldier fighting a war, but obviously it's not. It's something much more personal. But again, the production is also... That's really interesting how the ones that we have picked for Evermore, The Great War and High Infidelity, are both the ones that are produced by Aaron, which is no coincidence, I don't think. I really think that... Which I wasn't thinking of when we classified, and we kind of didn't really look into like production-wise things, because I forget, honestly, because I really need that 3 a.m. physical so I can read the booklet and get used to who was on what. But anyway, it's very interesting how it kind of works out. For me, they really do feel like a secret continuation of Evermore that has bled over into Midnights.
Oh, 100%.
It makes sense that they're 3 a.m. tracks. 100%. It really does. High Infidelity, the same.
I think so.
Also, High Infidelity, the topics that it speaks about are very much Evermore. It's like Tolerate It 2.0, yes. Honestly. It's like, Ivy.
And I think as well, you really, in our 3 a.m. episode, you really kind of linked it with Ivy.
Yeah.
And kind of discussed its parallels. So that was one of the reasons as well that I discussed it. Yeah, sonically it kind of has that kind of same sound. Again, it deals with a closure of something. And one of the reasons that I then put Dear Reader was because, I don't know, Evermore has this kind of slightly retrospective look with the kind of closure of, like, I know Champagne Problems has it, Marjorie has it, Long Story Short kind of has it, and I think Dear Reader is the same.
Yeah.
And also Evermore also does touch on a lot of the things that happened in 2016 with, the song Evermore kind of touching on it, Long Story Short touching on it. So I think that the kind of Dear Reader, that kind of questioning whether she's capable to really give advice and that people shouldn't be taking advice off of her. And then the kind of poetic element of, like, the kind of Dear Reader. I don't know, it just screamed kind of the themes of Evermore.
Right,
for me, personally. And production-wise, it would work quite well. It's kind of the second half of Evermore. I would kind of place it in the kind of closures and the Marjories of Evermore.
Yeah.
And the Long Story Shorts, that kind of part of the B-side of the album.
I do think lyrically I would kind of push it towards Folklore a little bit more personally, but now that we have spoke about it, and with that in mind, which the production is quite important on that song, and it's hard to ignore. So I definitely think it does feel more Evermore-y in the sense of, like you just said, closure. Kind of
experimentally.
Yeah. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards that now more as we've spoken about it. But yeah, it was quite difficult in general to do this, which honestly makes me feel that Midnights, she's really picked out a particular sound for Midnights that stands out from the rest, even though we can cross over some easier than others. But it's very interesting the path that she's gone towards, very much pop. It's very interesting to analyze those 3 a.m. tracks doing something like this, because you can see that most of the 3 a.m. tracks we've added to Evermore and Folklore, so you can see where her influences are for those.
And what's quite interesting as well is being able to see kind of the similarity. So, like, basically kind of 1989 onwards is what kind of sonically inspires Evermore. Not Evermore, Midnight, sorry. And things like Evermore, Lover and Rep, I think, are the big standouts. And I think Rep, Lover and Evermore kind of mashed together is kind of Midnights. It's kind of got that gorgeous songwritery storytelling element of Evermore with the kind of sass and revenge of Reputation, but also with the production and kind of positive
romance
love vibes of Lover, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So it's kind of those kind of mashed together, whereas like those the first 4 country albums I just really, really struggled with. Like Speak Now, I was not overly happy with my picks, but I had to shove something on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
And those I really struggled with, but those later ones I definitely think influence so much. The fact that the majority of my songs are on Rep, Lover and Evermore, I think that, it kind of says it a lot, really. And I think that that's what's so interesting with Midnights, is it is a real kind of mash of all of the type of pens, you know what I mean? The gel, the glitter gel pens, the fountain, the quill, and kind of done very well. And songs that maybe if you gave it a different production, it might appear like a kind of glitter pen or a fountain, but actually given totally different production, it could become Quill or it could become Fountain. You know what I mean? I think that sometimes the kind of hard-hitting lyrics are really kind of covered up with this kind of poppy production, whereas, if it was given an Evermore production, you'd be like, oh my god, this song is absolutely depressing, like Anti-Hero.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I agree with you there. There's the production is something so very important to this album, and I think that she was very, very much involved in every single bit of producing the album. Jack and her work together so well and are very conscientious about what they're doing with the song. But yeah, it's definitely been very, very interesting. And I thought it was very interesting that those, as you mentioned, as you pointed out, my favourites are very much Evermore core, Evermore leaning, which makes sense because honestly for me, Evermore, it's hard to say it, but I think it's probably my number one album of Taylor's as a whole. It'd be very difficult to go there, but
yeah, it is so hard. I've always said Red. I've always loved Red.
Yeah,
and I think Red Taylor's version with the kind of addition of All Too Well, 10 Minute, Better Man. I've always said Red, but then I really struggle because then I'll listen to something like 1989 or Speak
I know,
Now,
it's just the mood you're in, really.
Evermore, and I'm like, no.
Yeah,
is Red the one? And then no, Red is the one. And then no, but at the moment, I mean, it just totally depends on the mood you're in. It really does.
It does. But I do love Evermore. I have a soft spot for Evermore because I have a soft spot for things in general that are kind of overlooked. So for a long time, I had a very soft spot for Speak Now, which I think is going to be remedied with whatever she has planned coming next.
Oh, 100%.
Which I'm very excited 100%.
for. And I think that's definitely sooner rather than later. I'm seeing a lot of people discussing kind of December 13th and things like that.
By the time this episode is out, it could be out, which is crazy to think.
Which is crazy.
So, listeners...
But I think it's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, listeners,
kind of be more
tell
realistic.
Tell us in the comments, is Speak Now Taylor's version here yet? But yeah, it's very exciting. I love how her music interacts with her own music. The intertextuality of it all is always so very interesting to me. And I love that we can do things like this because of that.
What I've always loved with Taylor's music is that not only within the album does it tell a very distinct story, but across from, right from 1 to 10, it tells this kind of very gorgeous chronological story, and you really get to see someone live in key stages of life and kind of them grow and develop with each album, and the perspectives change, and even things of, with Daylight mentioning Red, and then obviously with Maroon mentioning it, and then with Evermore mentioning stuff that happened in Reputation, there's just this constant growth. And what I really love is this kind of linear line between all of the albums where you get to see, a child, a 16-year-old, kind of turn into an 18-year-old and deal with kind of becoming an adult, and then that person then becoming, a 20-something, and the difficulty of feeling like a teenager and an adult, and then growing up and being in their 20s and having this amazing time, and then the struggles of being in their 20s, and then falling in love in their 30s and so on. It's just that's what I just love about Taylor's music, is this kind of chronology to her kind of her life kind of follows along with the music, and you can feel like you're kind of growing up with her, and really get to see her life experiences through her kind of music. I just love it, and that's what's interesting about going back and looking back at the albums and being like, what fits where. So I love doing stuff like this. It's just I love over-analysing Taylor's music because it deserves to be.
It does, and it is. That is what is most quintessentially Taylor, and very quintessential of singer-songwriters in general. They have a very personal relation to their songs, and they have an appreciation for them because they are part of their life in the end. It's like a diary that you get to read that new parts are added to in a very, very metaphorical and interesting and catchy way. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. These episodes are always very fun because they do enlighten you, and you see songs in a different way and you think, but if this did have a different production though, it is telling the same story as this. So let us know in the comments which songs you would add to a different album. Is Midnight Rain better on Fearless or on Reputation? What do you think? Let us know and tell us what you thought of our decisions. If you did enjoy this episode, make sure to let us know by giving it a thumbs up over on YouTube, or rate the podcast if you enjoy it on Spotify or on Apple Music. Also, you can follow us over on Instagram. Our handle is @SwiftlySpokenPodcast, and make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Swiftly Spoken Podcast. Thank you so much for listening.